Right, welcome back to the podcast. Me and Dan were just saying before we started that it's important that we have good visuals right now because we're starting on YouTube. So Dan just hitting a big stretch there before we get started. Uh,
Definitely.
do you want to give listeners a little update as to how your week's been and what you've been up to?
So, obviously we had Erin on last week, which was really good. And obviously she's the first guest that we've put in up on our new YouTube. So, as Matt kind of said there, we're now on the big screen, which is the first step to stardom. We've updated from the radio to the TV, because we do have pretty faces. So it's about time, eh? I'm back from Albania last week, which was amazing. um, some really eye-opening experiences, cultures, food, and scenery was just all amazing. But unfortunately, like I came back last week and I just kicked straight back into work. There was no like, a couple of days off to try and acclimate back to the my surroundings and ease myself back into work. When you're self-employed, I was already taking the piss, almost taking 12 days off without really doing any work. Like I was doing a little bit, like an hour and a half each day, but not as much as what I do when I'm at home. So yeah, I got back at 1 a.m. and then, I got up at I think it was 7:30 the next day and just got straight back into it, straight back into training. I did my first running club last night again, which was difficult. And my legs are sort of paying for it today. But apart from that, things have been very normal. I'm not going anywhere now until the summer. So yeah, that's a little update from me.
Um, did you train when you were in Albania?
Yeah, I didn't run, which is surprising for me because, as you know, because we went to Portugal together, I always try and run when I'm in uh, a country. However, Albania is a very, very hilly country. Like every town, coastal town, is sort of built on a hill, and it's like up in tiers, and the beach is obviously at the bottom. And I just couldn't be bothered running up hills. So I went to the gym 4 times over the 12 days.
Yeah.
Um, Obviously just to get a wee chest and gun pump, obviously.
It's funny how you said about being on holiday. Like when clients ask me like, do you work on holiday? I always say there's no such thing as like actual time off as a PT. You can
Yeah.
be away, but like even when I'm on holiday, like when we were in Portugal, how many messages did we get between us from clients? Like
Yeah.
clients, this is not like me having to go with clients or anything like that, but you never really get a day off because on Sunday I don't do any work on Sundays, although lately I have been doing some. I don't PT anyone and I don't do any check-ins um, with clients on Sundays, and I still find that I do get quite a lot of WhatsApps from clients. Like I was joking with Alda the other day, like if I open my phone on Sunday morning, it could be like 6 a.m. on a Sunday morning, someone will message me. Someone will
Yeah.
have messaged me on a Saturday night, like asking about like their diet plan or something, like something will come up.
Yeah.
So it's the same when you're on holiday. Like I remember being at the top of the Empire State Building and taking my phone out. And this is back in the day, so I still had notifications on my phone. I don't have any notifications on my phone anymore. But at this point, I still did, and I remember taking my phone out of my pocket in the Empire State Building to like take loads of photos, and I had like tons of WhatsApps just from clients asking me questions, like just like stuff that could probably wait, but yeah, there's no such thing as actual time off because you're always replying to messages, you're always replying to emails. Clients always want like something before you're home.
hmm
Um,
I think
so
I
I try
think
and
the
make a point
sort
now.
I think the sort of misconception of people think that when we message people, it's just a like, hey, how are you? But like, the whole premise of coaching is to coach somebody through a process. And unfortunately, that A takes time and B takes a lot of messages. Like you can't just
Yeah.
say, do this, go and track this, type in the weight and amount, blah, blah. Sometimes they might actually physically need you to take them through step by step everything
Yeah.
that they need to do. And unfortunately, that's just the nature of the job.
And I've got no problem with that, and I'm all for it. That's part of the reason
Same,
why I love my job because I can
same.
communicate with people all the time.
hmm
And training wise, I think it's very important to have a lot of feedback from people.
hmm
So I'm all for that. Obviously, when you're on holiday, like it should be maybe a little bit different.
hmm
Um, and like I think in future when I go away, like you were talking about Albania there, that's why I mentioned this. I think in future when I go away, I'll maybe like spend like an hour a day on my phone and then like the rest of the time just not do it, because otherwise it doesn't really feel like you're relaxing, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, what have I been up to? So to answer your question, the usual training, working. I've been really busy lately, and I've also got a new clothing sponsor, which if you follow me on Instagram, you'll have already heard about. So Never Ending Clothing, Tiernan, who runs Never Ending Clothing, sorry, partnered up with them. At some point, we'll get Tiernan on the podcast, and he can talk about the brand and how he got started and what his plans are for the future. Got some really exciting plans for the clothing brand. So if you look at my Instagram, I always put the link up to their website. So check it out. It's basically just workout gear, t-shirts, shorts, jumpers. They've got a lot more stuff in the pipeline, but they're just kind of at the infancy stages as a business. But it's really exciting. I was actually pleasantly surprised when I first wore the stuff when I trained, because like obviously before me and Tiernan talked, I hadn't actually felt the clothing, I hadn't actually worn it. And when I put it on, I was like, okay, this is actually pretty good stuff. Like it is actually really good stuff. And it's easy for me to say when I'm getting it for free, but it is actually really good. So that's exciting. And as I say, we will get Tiernan on the podcast at some point. So episode today, we're going to go over a Q&A. So yesterday, me and Dan both put up sticker tabs on our Instagram stories for questions. I put up one, sort of the open questionnaire thing, and I also put up an anonymous one, because for whatever reason, whenever I put it up anonymously, I get loads of questions, and when I put up just a sticker tab, I might get 4 or 5. But the anonymous one, like
some of them are ridiculous, mate. Come on.
Some of them are absolutely crazy, and I'm not going to mention some of them because like my mom and sister might listen to this. I can't say these things out loud. So do you want me to start with one, or do you want you to go?
You start.
Okay. I'll go to the Instagram ones first, because some of them are pretty good. And the objective of our Q&As is always just to give out information. So if there's something that we cover and we kind of brush over it, if you ever want more detail on it, just message me or Dan and we'll happily go into it for you. Right, first one. At what stage should I be taking creatine? I'm currently in the weight loss stage. So I think this person is referring to stage of training, relatively beginner, as far as I'm aware. So in my opinion, with creatine, it doesn't really matter what level you're at. Creatine is a useful supplement for anyone who weight trains. The benefits of creatine are proven time and time again. It will help you in the gym. It will help with strength output. So the main thing with creatine is just taking it every day. There's not a specific time of day where it's more or less effective. So like people have said to me in the past, pre, during, or post workout, or first thing in the morning, last thing at night. Honestly, as long as you're getting your 5 to 10 grams a day, for most people, that's fine. It doesn't really matter on timing. If you're in a fat loss phase, or if you're in a calorie surplus, even if you're in a maintenance phase, I would still recommend taking creatine. If your goal is progressive overload, if your goal is getting strong, if your goal is recovering from weight training, creatine will help. It's a marginal help. It's not, a cycle of anabolic steroids. It's not going to turn you into a Hulk or anything like that. But it will have sort of like a 2 to 4% increase in strength by taking it. So for most people, I would recommend a minimum of 5 grams per day. Some of the bigger lads, maybe up towards 10 grams, but usually around 5 grams a day minimum.
Yeah, stole the words out of my mouth. Like I work with general fat loss clients, people that aren't that big. So I usually recommend 5 grams a day. Again, does not matter what time of day you take it. Some people freak out because they usually have it as part of their morning sort of routine, and they forget to take it, and they're like, oh, I can't take it until tomorrow. Doesn't matter. Just take it. Doesn't matter if it's at lunchtime or if it's before you go to bed. The benefits are endless. I think I could be wrong, and I'm sure you'll correct me if I'm saying this, but it is one of the most researched supplements ever. We've discussed the benefits before, so I'm not going to get into them too much, but strength output, cognitive function, all the good things you want when you're on a fitness journey of some sort of fat loss phase or a muscle gain phase or whatever. I think it's important to say that I suppose you can expect a little bit of weight retention when you start taking it on the onset, but like if you've got all your other ducks in a row, eventually that will kind of sort itself out. And as Matt kind of said, it will provide you with a little bit of an edge, but it's not a cycle of magic steroids that are going to make you, you know, the next Hugh Jackman or whatever. It's just something that will provide a 1% help that, you know, over if you take it over a period of time, you'll start to see the difference.
Yep. Next one. Reflect on the goals you set for 2023, 1/3 of the way through the year.
Okay, I'll take this first. So for me, my goals are learn a new language, travel more, continue to grow my business. You know, like I don't think there's any, you'll kind of be the same. Like you never really want to put like a finite number on how many people you want to help. You want to just try and impact and help as much people as possible. So yeah, just continue to grow my sort of target audience and the people that I help. And also I would like to run a half marathon in between 90 and 100 minutes. It's hard to say the half marathon one because I've not really tested myself yet. I'm kind of just up to running half marathon distance. Now that I've kind of chiseled that down, I'll kind of refine that time wise. Learning a language is difficult, but I'm doing quite well. I'm currently splitting my time between Albanian and Spanish. Spanish I've been doing for a lot longer, so I'm a little bit further on. And traveling, I've just come back from 12 days in Albania. I think we're going to go back in the summer. You know, I was in Amsterdam in February, and I'll be looking to go somewhere different towards the latter end of the year. So I would say going quite well, business wise. Couldn't be happier. I'm busy as hell. I run my own business, getting my own clients, doing all the marketing and the admin and the onboarding all myself. And I also work as a performance coach for Ben Heron, who's an online coach from Dubai, who you know has over 70 clients on his books. And I'm very lucky that I get to work with 30 great guys, all busy CEOs of companies that are scattered out all over the world. You know, we've got clients in Guatemala, Australia, Dubai, UK, Germany, and they all have very different goals, which allows me to use my brain a bit better. You know, I had a guy I put through the Rome Marathon, who we managed to get a PB out of. He ran Rome Marathon in 3:25, so he broke the 3:30 mark, which is amazing. And yeah, so business side of things, I'm really happy with the way things are going. I get to work with a great bunch of guys, great bunch of women in my group. So yeah, I think I'm quite happy with the way that's going.
Yep. And then from my side, some of my goals for the year, I always have travel goals, as in kind of what you said, Dan, as in I want to go on a certain amount of holidays, I want to see certain places. So the way things are shaping up for me, Amsterdam in January, that's great. Then I'll be going to Greece in June. So starting off in Crete with Elda's family. And then me and her are going to go to Athens afterwards with a little short trip to Santorini. So that'll cover quite a lot within Greece. And then later in the year, I'm going to go to Japan. Japan's like a bucket lister for me. It's something I've always wanted to do. So Tokyo, Osaka, and Kyoto, most likely the places I'm going to visit within Japan. And then outside of travel, so that's kind of that covered. I had some sort of financial targets. So I probably can't comment on that till the end of the year. You know, that's kind of one of these things that we'll take to the end of the year to know if I've hit or not. And then on top of that, personal goals, learning basic Greek. So I'm doing that at the moment. So hopefully by the time I'm there in June, I'll have nailed down some simple sentences. Kind of got words and phrases now, but I wouldn't say I'm good with sentences yet. And then another goal that I had that I have actively been doing every single day since January 1st is reading. So over the past few years, I focused most of my learning through courses and podcasts. And now I'm in the habit of actually reading, actively reading things. So one book a month was like my minimum target. It's April now and I'm on book number 6. So I'm absolutely smashing that. So every single morning without fail, first thing I do is get up, get Larry's food and stuff, and then make a glass of lemon water, sit and read. It's the first thing I do every day. So it's just like a habit. Every single day I'm doing it. So even if I don't make time for it later in the day or before I go to sleep at night, I've always read at least like 10, 20 pages, something like that. So it's a really nice habit. I'm actually really enjoying doing it. I feel like I just didn't prioritize it over the past few years. So it's something that I've really prioritized now and I will continue to do as part of my routine. So that's another one. So yeah, the 2023 goals are going pretty well so far. You want to go with the question, Dan?
Sweet. That was solid, man. Okay, so I'll read out the question and then I'll kind of put what I think it actually is meant to say. So it says, when dieting for fat loss, should you focus on food quality or just matching up to your calories? I think that just means like hitting your calorie target for, I assume because they've said for fat loss that they're in a deficit of some sort. So yeah. So do you want to take this one first or do you want me to?
Yeah, I'll take it. So my answer is going to be a really coaching answer. You should really be focusing on both. It's not one of the other, one or the other, I should say. You want to be focusing on food quality. I'm always a massive advocate of eating whole foods and food quality for actual nutrient sake. But in terms of actually progressing, being in a calorie deficit and making sure you're making progress towards fat loss, the overall macros, the overall calories are going to be the determining factor. Within that, if you are making progress, you want to prioritize whole foods and then maybe sprinkle some foods that you enjoy in and around that while staying in a calorie deficit. But for me, if you had to say which one is more important, it would be the overall intake, macros and calories, because if you have quality nutrients, but you don't have macros and calories nailed down, then you're massively limiting your progression and therefore you're wasting time. So you could be having, like when you get these fad diets like Slimming World and Weight Watchers and all that crap, when people follow these things, I can't remember which one it is that you get sins. Which one's that, Dan?
I think it's Slimming World.
So say Slimming World, you've got like sins. So like a chocolate bar, whatever is a sin, but like pasta and rice, you can have unlimited amounts of. Those people aren't losing any body fat because they're probably just going to have too much volume of food with high calorie dense food. So without a doubt, the most important thing for fat loss is tracking calories and macronutrients to get progress. But you should be prioritizing both, in my opinion. There's no reason why you can't do both. And if you want to have sustainable long-term progress, that should always be your aim. To have high nutrient dense food, as in like micronutrient, fiber, high protein, but also keep track of it in terms of calories in, calories out equation.
Yeah, no, that's totally spot on. Like I think that you kind of hit the nail on the head for me with the last thing you said there. If you're looking for long-term success, you will need to do both. I think, if you come into the straight up restricting foods, exiting out foods, just to optimize a healthy diet. And then after 12 weeks, you've got your goal and you go back to normal, the likelihood is you're just going to rebound back to your old ways and regain all the weight. So long-term wise, you are going to have to learn to do both. I think that if you are planning on just hitting calories and macro targets and filling that with whatever you want, and yes, although you might not be going over it, the target, even if you are filling it with junk, I still think that that's not the smartest decision ever because, shit food will make you perform shit in the gym. It will make you feel shit. It will make you sleep shit. And therefore that will impact your decision making long term on other things to do with diet as well. So I definitely think you should be learning to do both. I think there's times where you'll need to tighten your belt and not worry so much about getting food enjoyment all the time. And then there's times where you can be at an event and you will be like, right, I have done pretty well. I can let loose a little bit on my food choices, but still stick within my calorie means. It's all about learning, when to put on what hat, and noticing that you will be putting on both hats from time to time.
Yeah, picking your moments. I say that to clients sometimes. Like, you don't have to be over restrictive to make long-term progress. You just have to have control. And then when you have an event like a wedding, a night out, someone's birthday, like a big event, allow yourself to go off plan and then make sure you get back on plan after. Long-term success is not dictated by one day. It's dictated by the accumulation of many, many good days back to back, the occasional off day, and then back on plan. And one bad night or one bad meal won't ruin 6 months of progress, just like one salad won't reverse 20 years of bad eating choices.
Yeah, agree.
Right, next question. How did you find managing your lifestyle post competition? So this question is from a bodybuilder, so I'm going to answer it from a bodybuilding perspective, because I know that's what he's after. So managing lifestyle post comp, we've touched on this in other podcasts in the past. So if you're brand new to the channel and you've never listened to our podcast in the past, we covered this in quite a lot of detail with Clara Swedland when she was on the podcast, and we talked about making food decisions, binge eating, the psychology of binge eating, and also how to handle the mentality of post competition. But to summarize it in a shortish answer, I say that now, but I'm going to go off on a tangent. How to manage it is difficult. It's difficult. Anyone who's been there and been through a long competition prep for bodybuilding shows will tell you it's difficult. And traditionally, most people manage it quite poorly the first time round, and then with each time, generally people get better with it. You've been so solely focused on one particular goal, and you're constantly in a high motivation state towards that one thing. And when it's over, that motivation is taken away, and all of a sudden you're left with what we call post-show blues. So now your drive and your motivation for that one thing doesn't exist. So you have to create new motivation. So what I try and do personally, this is my approach because that's what the question was, is I try and set goals for post-show before I get to post-show. So maybe at like 10 weeks out for my first competition of the year, I'll try and set goals for after the shows. So for me, I focus on performance-driven goals rather than creating a food focus of calories and things like that. You're already starving. You're already thinking about food because your body's in a really deprived state. That's why you're that lean. So creating food targets and thinking about food overly, in my opinion, is a recipe for disaster. So what I try and do is set performance targets and think about other things that make you feel good, that give you dopamine release, that give you a positive feeling. So let's say like a squat PB target in the gym, a weighted pull-up target, something like that. Booking a holiday, something like that, that makes you feel good. Because the post-show blues is a real thing, and if you're not careful, it will hit you hard. I know bodybuilders that have said, I feel literally depressed post-show because they've had such a pure motivation for something, and then it's just gone. It evaporates into thin air. And so that's what I try and do. I try and focus on performance-related goals. And then within that, trying to be sensible with nutrition. Obviously being a coach, I have to practice what I preach. So I try and take the approach of, I'm not going to be an absolute soldier with it. I'm going to eat off plan. I'm going to enjoy some meals out. I'm going to enjoy a takeaway if I really want it, but I get back on plan after it, So I'll, like after my last show last year when I did the Universe, I went out with my family. We had, what do you have again? We had Chinese. So we went out and had a Chinese. I had a chicken shawarma. I had a few more meals when I was out in Dubai right after the show. And then once I got home, right into my off season, Andy wrote me up a meal plan and I just got cracking with it. I maybe give myself one off meal plan a week, which is what I say to my guys in off season anyway. And then I just cracked on. First show that I ever did, I didn't do that. I didn't have a plan. I didn't really know what to expect. I didn't really know what to do. And that's why I'm happy to give that advice now, because I think it's something you learn from. And if you can try and learn from other people without making that mistake yourself, you'll do better in your off season. So yeah, setting targets post show is a really good idea in my opinion, because it gives you that new focus, that new drive towards something different other than just being lean all the time. If you just focus on how lean you are, or how much weight you're gaining, how much body fat you've gained since the shows, you're only ever going to be disappointed, because that's pushing you to compare yourself with your absolute leanest self. That's like a 40-year-old man comparing himself to his 21-year-old self and being like, I look older. Well, no shit, you look older. Of course you look older. You are older. You're going to put on weight. So there's no point in trying to compare yourself to your leanest version of yourself months prior.
Okay.
You want to go for a question?
Yeah, I do. Just to let everyone know, after Matt's last show, he took me for a mixed grill and we fucking smashed it.
That was a good mixed grill.
So I'm going to answer this one first very quickly, just because it's a question more geared towards me, and then I'm going to ask the next one directly that we can both answer. So I know this person, they've asked, what was my favorite place in Albania? Matt's obviously not been yet, so I'm not really sure he can answer this. I'll say very quickly, it was there's two places. I can't choose between them. One was Gjirokastër, which is a city in the south, which is rich full of history. And anyone that knows me knows that I'm very into World War II. And we got to go mud buggy racing through an old military World War II decommissioned base, which had rusty old tanks, airplanes that were rusty, medical wings, bunkers, like with bullet holes in them. Very, very great experience. They also had a castle that was used in World War II as well, and even dating back further than that. But most recently, it's a World War II munitions museum. So like the boyhood history buff in me loved that. But also we did a 4-hour trek up in the north in Theth, to a place called the Blue Eye of Theth, which is a waterfall that is crystal clear blue.
Mm.
And we all got in and swam in it, and it was a surreal experience, a surreal trek through the Albanian Alps, as they're called, and it was just amazing. So yeah, that was my two favorite places. Can't pick between them though.
That's a good one. You want me to
Point.
go with the question?
Well, I'll go with the next one just because it's on my list. Books that we're reading at the moment. I like to split my books up, personal and business. I read two at one time. Just because I always like to keep some form of business, whether it's coaching related. So my personal book is a World War II book called The Castle of Colditz, funnily enough. And my business book is a book called The Prosperous Coach, which is just a book really essentially, giving you better questions, more deeper questions that you can ask your clients in order to get them better results, to just connect with them a bit better rather than just being like, oh, how was your nutrition this week? Like you have to learn to, that eventually they're just going to keep saying it's okay and it's fine. Yeah, I've got things under control, but how do you then ask them the questions around that when things aren't working? Like, why is it not working? Digging deep into the relationships with food and how they visualize exercise and things. So yeah, it's been eye-opening for me. So that's two books I'm reading at the moment.
Yeah, so I'm reading How to Win Friends and Influence Them for the second time. I quite
I've
like
read that.
reading books twice. I feel like it sinks in a lot better second time round.
Mhm.
And I'm also reading The Art of Happiness, which is a book on Stoicism. So it's relating to old Stoic philosophies and basically just a fresh outlook on life. I really like the Stoic stuff. I can really resonate with
Mhm.
that.
Mhm.
So I feel like there's always take home points from books like that. So that's what I'm reading just now.
Nice one. Right. Go for it.
Right, next question. I've got quite a few ones that we could rattle off quite quickly, so we could just
Go
give
for it.
fairly fast answers. One thing you can't survive without. Now let's answer this without the obvious like food, water, sleep. Like let's assume you can't say something that's really, really obvious. One thing you can't survive without.
Mm, I think one thing I couldn't survive without. I think for me personally, there isn't really any like finite object or materialistic thing I don't think I could live without. I think
Yeah,
if my ability or my right to travel was taken away from me, um, I don't think I could live with that.
like COVID.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's a good one. I'm gonna say weight training.
Okay.
Yeah, I think no matter where I am in the world, weight training will be my priority.
Mhm.
Um, your favorite part of your own body?
I
That
suppose I have to kind of keep this PC, don't I? Um, I think I've got quite banging calves.
quite banging calves. Favorite part of your body. I'm a bodybuilder, so like this is a tough one for me.
Yeah.
Do you know what? I'm gonna have to go with pecs. It's something that people comment on quite a lot. It's always been quite a strong point for me, bodybuilding wise. So I'll go with pecs.
Nice one.
Is Michael Jackson still alive?
Definitely. Absolutely,
No,
definitely. I say yes.
not for me. Okay. What's the last thing you ate?
Oh, I had my usual like 800-calorie breakfast. I say breakfast, it was like 11:30, like omelette, with tomatoes, avocado, mushrooms. I actually had some red onions in there today, and I had a shake, and I think that was
You
it.
ate your breakfast at 11:30.
I don't usually wake up and eat first thing. I kind of have two large meals a day. Matt's computer has not frozen. He's just in shock.
I'm in pure shock. I've had 3 meals by the time of recording this. Last thing I ate was I had a chicken salad and then I had yogurt with some berries, which means it's summer. If you're eating like that, it's summer. In winter, that would have been a massive bowl of oats. Okay, next question. I'm just trying to scroll through the bad ones. Some of these questions, man.
Is there any
Uh,
Earth flat questions?
no.
No.
And that's also my answer to that. What time did you go to bed last night?
Oh, I'm an old man now, so I'm like in bed by 10:30 max, and like I listen to an audiobook before I go to sleep, so usually I'm clocked out by quarter to 11, 10 to 11, absolute maximum.
I went to bed at 9 o'clock. Next question. Do you pray?
No. I'm not religious, so simple answer, short answer, no.
It's a no for me too. Dan, you got any questions? Do you want me to keep
Yes.
trying to rattle off these?
Let
Go for
me
it.
break up the funny ones with one that we can actually talk a little bit about. So I've got new gym goer. Should I start off by going straight into the gym, or should I attend a few classes first? So I don't know this person, although I know who sent the message. I don't know them personally. But my advice would be, it really depends on the goal. Like, I don't see the problem if you want to socialize, get a little bit fitter, uh, go into a class. However, I think if your goal is body composition, which 90% of people on my page are, the other 10% are friends and family. I think that you should at least get into the gym, start familiarizing yourself with the equipment, the movement, and get yourself some sort of plan set up. Like, it really is astonishing the amount of people that go to the gym and just don't have a plan. Like, knowing how to work out, knowing what works for your body, your lever length, your ability, like it's a skill. It's like you would never open up the hood of your car and be like, oh, it's not starting, it must be this. No, you take it to a garage. This is the same thing. Like, you could actually do yourself some real damage if you've not had proper guidance, tuition on some of these pieces of equipment. I've seen people use stuff wrong all the time. So my best advice would be, yeah, get yourself into a class if you want to meet other people and get a sweat on. And it could be good for team spirit. But if you want body compositional goals, long-term success, and I'm not just talking about in terms of weight loss, I'm talking about, weight training and in the gym does wonders for your mental health, mental resilience. You've got to think about joint and ligament appreciation as well. Um, Mobility. I think it's all really relevant here. Oh, I think just because we're on the YouTube, I think everyone can see that Matt has left the building. So I will continue talking. So yeah, I mean, I think it's most important that you want to get a sweat on, you go to the classes, you want to high five people doing a hit class, a spin class, go to a class. If you don't and you want serious goals, you want to build a better body, build a body for the future, get stronger, improve performance, then I think the best thing for you to do is hit up the gym. Get yourself a trainer, get yourself a coach, get yourself a program set up, and that is the best thing that you can do. Now the main man is back. I'll let him take over.
Right. I can't get through an entire podcast without having to go for a pee. So I agree with what you said pretty much, Dan. I think you've taken most of the good points that we would normally say for people. And in terms of advice, that is sound advice. I think another thing to mention when it comes to the difference between getting into weight training, learning how to train, and classes is progression. I think most people, when it comes to the people I work with as a coach, most people want progression. They want to see return on investment, learning how to train, getting better and more efficient at training. So with weight training comes lots and lots of runway for progression. With classes comes a good workout. You get good sweat on, calorie burning, but very little room for actual progression. If you were to do classes for a decade, what have you really gained from that? What have you really benefited from in terms of which direction are you going in? Yes, you're burning calories, but I could go outside and walk Larry and burn calories. Doesn't mean anything. I don't need a gym membership to do that. With weight training, you're allowing yourself progression of changing your body composition. You're allowing yourself progression of learning skills. You're allowing, postural improvement, strength benefits, the fun of training, in terms of progression. There's lots of different tangible variables that come with applying progressive overload through resistance-based weight training. And you won't get that through classes. So I would say from an enjoyment factor, yes, classes can be enjoyable, but as a supplement to weight training and not the other way around, in my opinion. That's what I would favor. So if you're just getting started, definitely what you said about hiring someone to help, we're gonna say that because we're coaches. We're obviously gonna favor that. The analogy I use a lot with clients, I've probably said this before in the podcast, is you would never just getting a car. When you legally turn 17, you're allowed to drive here, so you can go get lessons. You never just hop in a car and think, right, I'll just figure it out. I'll just teach myself how to drive. But for whatever reason, in the gym, with your own body, not with an external car, with your own body, people tend to do that. They tend to go in the gym and think, I'll just figure it out. I'll see whatever that guy's doing in the gym, and I'll just try and copy him. That guy's doing the same thing. So what's your plan B? That guy's not a clue what he's doing. So you're just copying crap technique. You could hurt yourself. There's a lot of negatives that can come with not knowing what you're doing in the gym. So yeah, that's just another point is when it comes to classes versus weight training. I would always favor weight training for progression, much more room for results long term, and also the enjoyment of seeing progress. Like I say, it's like return on investment. You want to see progress. And if I'm spending hours every week investing my time into doing something, I want something back from it. I want to see the difference. I want to feel the difference. Weight training will give you that. Go into a random circuits class or a spin class. It'll make you feel good. It'll burn calories, but you won't have that long-term progression route. I like to call it a runway for progression that you get from weight training. So yeah.
Yeah, I think, and this is very controversial what I'm away to say here, and I'm probably a way to piss a lot of people off, but like, if you have seen somebody that has been doing classes for a decade, and I'm only saying this because I've seen it, and I'm the guy that's taken those classes for at least 5-6 years in gyms. Their appearance, their physique, their body composition has not changed. I would even go as far to say as they're still doing the same shitty plank technique that they were doing a decade ago.
Yeah, you see it all the time. I mean, I've met people that have said, I don't want to invest in a coach, or I don't want to spend money on a trainer. I've met people that have said that, and yet prior to that, they have spent 10 plus years paying for a gym membership and getting literally nothing, zero in return. So the return on investment in that is horrific. I mean, if they just spent 1 year doing one PT session per week with a coach, they would have had more results tenfold than they've had. And not to mention the time wasted. Take away the money factor. You take away that, you can always replace money. You can always work and replace the money. But like the time factor, spending all that time and not getting anywhere for it, that's effectively like spending 10 years in your career and not getting anything back for it. Not progressing, not getting anywhere, just spinning your wheels, just wasting all your free time. Not for me. I like the way I'm wired mentally, like I couldn't deal with that. I couldn't deal with wasting that much time and effort. Effort, going in the gym and providing like 3-4 times a week of like maximum effort and getting nothing back for it. Like I just couldn't imagine doing that. I think after doing that for 3 months, I'd be like, right, I need to sort my shit. I need a coach, So I struggle to understand that mindset. And I think nowadays people are genuinely better with it. I think social media has probably helped the popularity of coaching. The people we work with are obviously, they're on the money with that. They're thinking ahead, like, right, I need a coach because I don't know what I'm doing. But some people, like, they're against getting a coach. They're against that investment. But like, if they don't do it, they're not going to get anything from their training. So it can be a tricky one. That's just the way I see it anyway. I want return for investment. I want reward for effort,
Sweet. Right. I'm out of questions, so let's rattle off some of your ones now.
No, man. Like, I've asked you the ones I can ask you. Some of these I can't say on a podcast. Yeah, and the only other one that we didn't answer that's half decent is, are you traveling anywhere soon? But we've already covered the travel stuff.
Yeah.
So I think we could wrap up there.
Perfect. Right. Thanks everyone for tuning in. And if you've stayed this long, we'd like to thank you. And as always, your feedback is super, super valuable for us. And that can be in the forms of, rating the podcast on Spotify and Apple. Even just a simple message or a tag or share on the story would really help push us. We want to get more interesting people, topics. So obviously, without stroking our own ego, we need the exposure. And as Matt said at the start, if you want anything covered or anything more in depth answered, or even a single podcast on something, tell us. We like to be prepared with these things. Yes, we can talk off the cuff about a topic, but we'd like to come a bit better prepared with an actual structure and facts and figures and things for you as well, if that's something you do so required. I think that's it from me. And there goes another episode.